So hello, glad to have you back and that you're tuning in. This is now the second video about Proxmox, and I thought I would structure the videos so that they build on each other sequentially. And in this second video, after the first one where we installed Proxmox on a Hetzner server, I want to briefly explain how my Proxmox environment, which I use for these videos, is set up. Then we'll set up the notifications, that is the alerts from Proxmox, so that Proxmox sends emails for certain actions, because as admins, we want to know what's happening. And then we'll download a virtual machine and install it. These are the three things I want to do with you now. Well then, I'll get started. To help make the explanation clearer, I specifically put together this graphic here. Put together, so to speak. I just made it. I called it Proxmox Tutorials Digital Easy. And now I'll try to explain how this all works to you. Right here in the very middle is our Proxmox server. On this Proxmox, this instance is the virtual machine Presence firewall system. That's also a Linux system, which is purely a firewall. You can install it as a virtual machine. Then, on the Proxmox or running on the Proxmox are additional virtual machines. There's another one down here as well. So now we have 3 virtual machines running on Proxmox. Those are the blue arrows. They could theoretically also be containers. The green and red arrows represent the internet connection and the IP addresses, and the directions of access. We received an IP address for the Proxmox server from Hetzner. I'm always referring to Hetzner now, but it could also be Ionos, Strato, or anyone else. The first video is about the installation on Hetzner, and my Proxmox is also running on a Hetzner system, and I received an IP address for this Proxmox server. Using PuTTY with an SSH client, I can access the Proxmox from home via this IP address. This is the network interface VMBR0. It's basically the default interface of a Proxmox server for the main IP address. This IP address is not used, at least not in my case, to access virtual machines. It is only reserved for accessing the Proxmox server itself. However, this specific IP address from Hetzner can be entered directly into a browser to connect to the Proxmox web-based graphical user interface, the GUI. And from within the GUI, we can also access the virtual machines. That means when we load Proxmox, the web interface of Proxmox, in a browser, we can operate the virtual machines, including, of course, those running on Proxmox itself. However, we cannot use this IP address to establish an RDP connection to these 2 Windows machines. This green line, so to speak, is an extremely protected line for this Proxmox server. If we now want to access these Windows machines from home, from our computer via an RDP session, it is technically possible to use this IP address, but I do not recommend it. It is not secure enough. So, we need at least one more IP address from Hetzner, ideally, and we assign this IP address in the form of a MAC address to the network card VMBR1, which we have installed in our Proxmox server. And this network card VMBR1 is, so to speak, the internal VM network, which basically runs separately from Proxmox. The virtual machine pfSense firewall is connected to VMBA1. Also connected to VMBR1 are these specific Windows machines, which are directly linked to the pfSense firewall. The pfSense firewall is set up in native mode in my particular case, and the RDP port 4000, which I have manually configured here, is forwarded in fsense to the real RDP port of Windows 3389 on machine 1. This is clearly specified right here in fsense, and port 4100 in fsense is forwarded to machine 2 3389 to the actual RDP port. If I now, from home, use the IP address connected to VMBR1 plus the RDP port of the machine I want, 4000, then the connection goes here to the network card VMBR1 and continues to the pfSense firewall. The pfSense firewall receives port 4000. It knows, okay, port 4000 should be forwarded to machine 1. RDP, and bam, the RDP session is sent to me here. If I now close the RDP session on my end and use 4100, it routes back here again to the network card in Proxmox VMBR1, which is then forwarded to the pfSense firewall. It also sees 4100, should forward it to machine 2, bam, machine 2. And now I can set up as many Windows machines as this Proxmox can handle. So if I have a quantum computer, I could set up 10,000 Windows machines and address all of them through a single IP address, so to speak. I can do that with Linux machines, I can do that with Windows machines, I can do that with websites, whatever. It's that simple. Now, of course, I can't say for sure whether this was really understood. I certainly hope so. That's how my environment is set up now. I have one IP address that I use to maintain, manage, control, and operate Proxmox. And that's it. The actual work network runs over another IP address, which goes through the open pfSense firewall, and then it does the NAT for me. Based on the ports, it forwards to the corresponding computers as needed. After all, you don't necessarily want to pay for 10 Hetzner IP addresses if you have 10 Windows machines on this box. This nating is also responsible for the fact that IPv4 addresses haven't run out yet. It was originally planned that IPv4 would be replaced because the addresses were running out. But thanks to technologies like NAT, port forwarding, and so on, even in the long run, there are enough IPv4 addresses available. So notifications we want, when at some point virtual machines are running here, I'll create one in a moment, we'll download and install another one that these virtual machines are running and doing something. From Proxmox's perspective, for example, whether they are being started up or shut down, or when backups are made, and so on. We would like to receive an email and be notified about that. To do this, of course, we log in here. I've already done this in our box. Go to Data Center, go to the middle navigation, click down, and here we have notifications. These are our notifications. You can click on that, and now, by default, notification days, the targets, and notification matches, the triggering conditions, are already set up here. And now, send mail is already set up here, but I've noticed that I'm not receiving any emails at all. And I didn't really feel like tinkering with it, especially since I already showed in the diagram how my system runs here. This is a box that's running on a Proxmox, and I specifically set up an email address to receive the emails, and now we're going to set up an SMTP server, which will be used here. From Boxbox, where Boxbox logs into the SMTP server and sends emails externally from there. First, we go to Notification Tasks and press the Add button, and we want to add an SMTP target. Here is the SMTP configuration window. The endpoint we'll use, that's the name, is mail2 mail address. That's what it's called for me now. You can name it whatever you want. For me, the server sends from oneblue.smtp.1.d. This email goes out, but it could also be smtp.ios.de or whatever else. You'll of course need to enter your own data here, the ones you got from your provider. The default port is 465. For me, I always enter it, but if it's already grayed out, then I need it from my sending address. The username you need is this one right here. And for my sending address, I need to include it with the password. That is how it's specified, so it comes from the address server at hilfeformadmin. Here you can simply select the user that has already been entered. But the email for this video shouldn't actually go to this address. It should go directly to the router. Instead, there's a separate mailbox set up just for this purpose. And that's where the email should go, into Kubo as a comment. So now I've entered everything. SMTP login details, the SMTP server are entered from the server address, that's correct, and to the address tutorials. If I've typed it correctly now, it should work. Now you can also go into the advanced settings. And then here you can basically set the email subject. Boxbox v, okay, that's the subject, we'll leave it like that. Now let's just click. Select our newly entered SMTP mail and press the test button. Do you want to send it to the address? Let's see where it's sent. Now I'll open my mailbox, which I set up specifically for this, and load it. Test notification, there it is already. It's now set up here, it works, that's it. Sending a test email to the tutorials email address. This shows the mail server linked here is working properly. The system is now successfully sending this email. And we can see that it's really easy. We'll turn off mail to Modif. I don't want any more notifications because I've now set it up so that it's sent through my regular mail server. So now let's take a look at the default matcher. And for example, we can say that if my Proxmox is supposed to get updates, or if updates are available, then I want to receive a notification. So I'll just create a matcher here. I'll call it Update to Mail Tutorials. If updates are available, then I'll send an email to the tutorials email address. Then I go here to match rule, all add. Now I can select match field. Match type, exact. Field notification type. The type and the entry for the type should be package update. So if updates are available, I think that's really great. Target who should be notified. The tutorial's email should be notified via SMTP. For the name field, we will enter updates are available. As for the specific rule criteria, match field, exact, notification, package, update. The target destination is right up here, so click add. Now, whenever Proxmox receives new updates, an email notification will be sent out. Attention, updates. But you can also say, hey, VM backup. There are 5 VMs that are extremely important. They do a backup every day at midnight. A full backup, of course. And I want to be informed whether the backup was completed properly. Then I create a rule here. Add notification type. VZ dump. Backup. Okay, it's that simple. Target is SMTP. You can now create as many targets here as you want. And add as many SMTP servers as you want. And as many rules. Create as many here as you want, or as are available. You can set all of this up here. And then when the rules I've set here apply, you'll be notified to the email address. I've already configured several different rules here. Now let's proceed by setting up a new virtual machine. We definitely need a virtual machine to thoroughly test and verify this specific rule here. So we've now established our notification system here, and now we also need a virtual machine to complete the setup. And of course, we're going to go all out and get ourselves a Windows server, so let's just type it in. If you just enter Server Evaluation ISO download into the search engine, Windows Server Evaluation ISO, then you'll find the Microsoft Windows Server Evaluation Center, which is a trial version. Now we can select the desired server version here. Of course, we want a German server. First, we right-click on the ISO file, and then select the option to copy link address from the menu. Then we go to Proxmox Data Center, then to Storage, Local, ISO Images. Here we can select Download from URL and enter the URL we just copied from Microsoft. And then it says Server Eval here, and we can download the ISO. Download 4.7 gigabytes, boom, now it starts downloading. Of course, this will take a moment. It says it should take 3 minutes, maybe 4 minutes. I'll check back in with you shortly. So my ISO has finished downloading completely. Up here, it took 4 minutes. Now we can proceed. Create VM. Proxmox will automatically assign ID 100 to the first VM. We assign a name, WinServer. 202201 until the 01 server starts. Boot. No, it shouldn't start automatically after Proxmox boots up. You start it manually. The operating system is not Linux here, but rather Windows, Microsoft Windows Server 2022. That's correct. So storage, our ISO is located on the local storage. That's where it is. Here it is. We select it. Then we go to next. System, Q35 machine. Yes, we leave all that as is. TPM, local LVM. That's where TPM will be stored. Version 2.0, we leave it like that. For storage, local LVM as the disk. We enable that as well, then we move on to the next step. Disk, 32 gigabytes is fine, now you can specify here. IDE, virtual block, SATA or SCSI SATA, then discard, which frees up the storage again, SSD emulation. We enable that, backup we leave on, cache. I always leave it off here for myself, always works very well. Now CPU. We need 4 cores for the Windows server, otherwise it's no fun at all. Memory, 4096. Yes, that's fine for now. Network, OMB0. There is only one network card installed in this Proxmox here. We'll leave it like that, Intel. You could also use VirtIO, but then you have to install the VirtIO drivers first on the Windows server. Yes, everything is nicely set up now, I think. Now he's creating the VM here. Now that's done, so we can click here and open the console, which is basically the screen. We can start the server here. We can start the server here, or we can start the server with a right click here. I'll go ahead and start it here now. Now the virtual machine is being started from the ISO, that is from the installation medium. Any key to boot from CD or DVD, timeout. So the whole thing will start normally because I waited so long. He could have given me a few more seconds. Really? So now we can start it here. Now it says press any key, so press any key. We've done that. Now it's loading some files here, and now the Windows installer is about to start up. German, German, German. Well, that's fine since we downloaded the German ISO. Now let's install. Setup is starting. You can already see that this is just a normal Windows screen. Windows Server Standard Evaluation, Data Center Evaluation. We'll go with standard with desktop experience because otherwise this would be without any graphical interface. But then you'd have to work with the console. Since we have Proxmox here, which has a screen, we'll go with desktop. Of course, we read through the usual terms completely. Yes, we totally agree with them and click Next. Down here, we go to Advanced, select Unallocated Space, and then click New at the bottom. The installation now proceeds in exactly the same way. Yes, it goes through the partitioning process. Now it says it's partitioning things. Now it's set up, and from here on, it's just like installing it at home on a regular computer or on a server operating system. There's no difference. Now it's the normal screen that we all know. So it might take a little while now, but of course it goes relatively quickly on a powerful box server. For me, it took a few minutes here, and then Windows wanted to restart, which I did. You click Restart, and now it has booted up again and is now doing the usual stuff that Windows does. Operating systems install, set up, and then we wait a bit. Soon it will ask to set a password here. Then the server will run and restart again. Now it wants me to set a password, so I'll click to assign one now. No problem. With each click, it's done. Now we're supposed to press Ctrl, Alt, and Delete here. Pressing it doesn't work because then my host, where the browser is running, reacts instead. So we have this little corner here that's meant for that, and then we have a letter here. We can also go full screen and adjust a few settings here. We can shut it down. Using this letter, we press this key combination, Ctrl, Alt, Delete. The Windows Server login screen appears. Enter the password. We can see that the internet is already connected. So the server is now fully connected to the internet via the Proxmox interface. It's running, it's working. And now I can just use my browser here as usual. If it asks for permission, yes, we can allow it. We don't need the server manager right now. And now we basically already have our cloud PC here. This computer is now running entirely in the browser. It's running normally in the browser on our Proxmox. We can also go online here. Oh, that's annoying. Microsoft, seriously. It's so exhausting sometimes dealing with these people. Always wanting something from you. Dark mode is definitely much better. There, looks good. Done. All right, let's see if Google works. It works. And now let's see if my website works. Look at that. Of course, we'll accept everything. It works. Yes, as you can see, everything loads. See, that's how it should be. I've just installed this server now, just to show you exactly how to create a new virtual machine here and how incredibly simple and easy it is to install one for yourself. And now you can use this Proxmox instance directly in your web browser just like a regular physical computer. Here, for example, working with documents, you can now create a brand new document here, a simple text document titled My Doc. And now I can already start writing a formal letter here. Dear Sir or Madam, I am writing to you today. Now I have a functioning computer here. Just save it, and that's it. Wonderful. Now, if you have, say, 10 virtual machines here, you can simply switch back and forth between these virtual machines. Everything just stays open, and it all keeps running smoothly. And now I can say, in order for Proxmox to be able to control this Windows server from the outside, this Windows server needs the Virtio drivers, the input-output drivers, the virtual ones. And we'll download those files right now from Proxmox. The official Proxmox Virtio driver ISO image. Windows Virtio drivers. Proxmox. So that's step 3, installation. Using the ISO. Now we're downloading the latest stable version. We're down here at installation. Now simply right-click once again to copy the specific link. Then navigate back to Box, which is our main storage location. Starting the ISO image download, paste the URL from the query URL, then load the ISO and download the drivers. The ISO takes a moment again, so after this driver ISO disk has been downloaded. Task. Okay, it's reported here, and now it takes over a minute. The servers from Box are apparently a bit slow at the moment. You can close this here. So now we go into our virtual machine to the hardware tab and add a CD drive there. Or there's still a CD drive with the Windows Server ISO image. Double click on it. Click there once and select the ISO down there. There it is on our local storage. The ISO image file is there, so select the ISO. Just like if we were inserting it, put it into the CD drive and start the server. Now the ISO file is in the CD drive, which means our driver CD is inserted. Now we log in here again, press Ctrl, Alt and Delete and enter our password. Windows starts up. Now it's important to make sure that Server Manager doesn't always start automatically and that this message doesn't show up anymore. Server Manager properties under Manage. Do not start Server Manager automatically at logon. Now let's go into File Explorer, this PC. Here is the CD drive. The ISO is in there, and then down here at the very bottom, this is an exe file, an application. Double click it, confirm that we agree, and install. Next, yes, we agree again. Next, just leave everything as it is here. Everything is already well pre-configured. Next, install. It is currently installing. It is the ION driver, and now from within Proxmox, I can locate the server right here. Shut down. It should shut down now. Exactly, without these drivers, this wouldn't have worked. Now the backup system from Proxmox can also, so to speak, start up and shut down this server. We'll just test that now. We'll log in here again, like this, and then the server is running, and now we'll go here. Now we'll create a backup. We want to receive a notification when a backup has been made. That's the whole reason we installed this server in the first place, so we can properly monitor this. To see if the notification is automatically sent when a backup is made, so now we'll create a backup. Backup is already selected. We click Add. Down here is the virtual machine 100, our Windows Server 2201. We always click on it. Yes, this virtual machine should be backed up. Include selected VM. If there are more here, you can check multiple boxes. Storage is local. Now it's 448. So we'll set it to 450 and it should then start up automatically. Retention, we will keep just one backup, only template advanced. We can leave all of that as it is. Then it should stop. The machine should be briefly stopped. We could also set send mail to here, but we don't need to do that. This is set to default auto, which means it now uses the settings from the notifications. We've set it up so that after a backup, a status message will be sent by email. We need to check if the backup ran properly and confirm that everything is looking okay. The backup will start in a minute. Let's take that time now and see what happens. The virtual machine should appear down here in Proxmox exactly at 450. A status message should also appear here in the task viewer, that the machine is stopped here and that the backup starts here. Then it will spin down there. The server isn't particularly large, so this will probably go pretty quickly. This backup, I'll then close these windows. Right now it's starting. Now it has stopped the machine and is about to start it up again. During the backup, it will be started up again immediately so that the downtime is as short as possible. Now let's take a look at the backup here. It's writing at over 200 megabytes per second, which means the backup is also relatively fast. It only writes areas actually used on the hard drive. For example, if a VM's drive is 400 gigabytes but only 10 are used, then only those 10 gigabytes are written to the backup. So, and now let's bring up the browser, 4:50 AM. Damp backup, status box, Mox backup successful. It says it was completed successfully. Now the individual steps are listed here as well. That means this email is sent exactly as we intended, so everything is working as it should. But you can also, and I just want to briefly mention this about the backup, if you select snapshot here, then a snapshot of the machine will be taken and it won't be stopped. That means it's basically always online unless a brief downtime of a few seconds isn't important. If that's not a problem, then it's definitely better to stop the machine. That way, a backup is much more secure and much less prone to errors than a snapshot, because then you have a full backup. And I also recommend this, since very few systems actually need to be permanently online. So that's it for this video for now. Here's what we've done so far. I walked you through my diagram and took a moment to explain in detail how things are set up here for me. Then we set up the notifications that should be sent out in the event that any issues occur. For example, if updates are available for Proxmox, an email will be sent automatically. If a backup of a virtual machine is created, an email will be sent. And you can fine-tune and adjust all of this even further and do much more with it. And I'm not entirely sure, but of course I hope that I was able to express myself at least somewhat clearly here. and that it was well understood. Otherwise, I would of course ask you to write in the comments what I might not have done well, so that I can improve a bit as well. I'm still pretty new to making these videos here. And of course, it could also be that I'm talking complete nonsense here and that what I'm saying or trying to show just isn't being understood. And there's a lot more to come about what you can do with Proxmox through videos. But of course, I always try to keep improving and to explain things even more clearly in the future. But for that, I do rely a bit on your feedback, of course. The fact is, Proxmox is a great thing. I wish you a wonderful day.